Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Bullpen Podcast. I am your host, Adam Kunos. It is great to be back. We are back with our first show of 2023. We have been off since November of last year, but we are back, and like the old Mike and Mike saying, we are back and better than ever. We are sponsored by Fanatics. Head on over to Fanatics. Use the link tree in our Twitter bio to get all of your latest Major League Baseball gear, including jerseys, hats, sweatshirts, collectibles, anything you can think of. Head on over to Fanatics. They have it there for you. Once again, I am your host, Adam Kunos. You can follow me on Twitter at Kunos19. You can also follow the show at the Bullpen Pod on Twitter. Like I said, we are back. It has been a crazy offseason here in Major League Baseball, but we're back to cover all the craziness that has been happening over the offseason. Like I said, our last show came in November. We had just crowned the Houston Astros 2022 World Series champions. And since then, a lot has happened. There have been a lot of free agent moves. We have players moving on to new teams. We have new team overhauls, new managers, new general managers in the loop. So we're going to cover a lot for you here on the Bullpen Podcast. But we are back. What has been happening since the last show? A lot of fun stuff has been happening. Personally, this past November, my wife and I had a chance to travel over to Europe. We went to Paris, England over Thanksgiving, beginning of December. Had an absolute blast. Got to spend some time with the family over the holidays. And we wish everyone that is listening or watching right now on YouTube or Twitter, hope you guys had a fun, safe holidays. Hope you guys had some time to spend with family, and hope that you are enjoying your start to 2023. And we come to you on Monday, January 9th. It is the national championship for college football, so I know that a lot of people are getting ready to watch the national championship, but we're going to take some time out to talk some baseball. And we're going to start with the Minnesota Twins. So in November, the Minnesota Twins did a complete revamp of their uniforms. They revamped their uniforms back in 2010 when they moved into Target Field. So good decade with their current uniform set, but they are resetting the whole thing back when it comes to 2023. And we're going to go over the uniform set here momentarily. So if you're watching, I just added on a new slide presentation. So these images that you're seeing on the screen are courtesy of Chris Creamer's sportslogo.net. He's the one that wrote a fantastic article regarding the Minnesota Twins new uniform. So if you go to sportslogos.net, you can read the article and you can pretty much take a category of all the Minnesota Twins uniform history and logos history back to when they started back in the 60s. So what is new about the Minnesota Twins? As you can see, they have a complete new look. The traditional TC is still present on their hats. They have a new M star hat logo, kind of going back to what they wore back in the 90s. They are paying homage to the Twin Cities, both Minnesota, Minneapolis, and St. Paul. So their word marks are very much the same. So they still have the traditional twin word mark. They went back to the Minnesota word mark that they had back in the 90s, and they added a new Twin Cities word mark as well. So we're going to start off with the home uniform. So as you can see, the Twins have a new home uniform, script Twins in red, Navy numbers on the front. On the back, it has player's name in Navy, player's number in red. It will be paired with an all-Navy TC Twins hat. You have Navy, white, and red piping on the sleeves and down the side of the pants. And you also have a new Minnesota State logo on the sleeve patch that features the North Star. I'm going to actually go back real quick because I'm going to touch on that. The North Star is actually be present in all of their logos, the M logo and the Minnesota State logo. And this kind of goes with the rest of the teams in Minnesota. They have a North Star present in their logo, so they're just following suit with the rest of the teams in the state. Overall, I think this is a very classic look. When I first saw it, I wasn't really sold on it, but having had a chance to now look at it, kind of see it, it's a very clean look, and you're seeing a lot of teams go back to this clean look, not too much pomp and circumstances over their uniform, so they have a very clean look when it comes to the home uniform. We're moving on to I think this is going to be their City Connect jersey. I'm not 100% sure. However, this will be their new alternate home uniform. It is a cream jersey featuring Twin Cities script in the front in navy, along with navy numbers and navy names and numbers on the back. What is different about this uniform is on the sleeve patch you have flags paying homage to Minneapolis and St. Paul, hence Twin Cities. One thing I like about this uniform is that they are paying homage to the Twin Cities, and I'm hoping that this is going to be their City Connect jersey for this year. They have not made an official announcement if this will be their City Connect jersey, but this will be a uniform that they will wear from time to time at home at Target Field. It is paired with a navy hat with TC in all white and cream. Overall, very clean look. You have navy striping on the sleeves and down the pants. Overall, very clean look. Next, moving on to the Minnesota Twins road uniform. So this is a very revamped from what they had in the past. They actually went back to the pinstripes. Now, if you remember the Minnesota Twins from the 90s, from the World Series championships in 87 and 91, it was a pinstripe road uniform. They kind of brought that back, kind of kept the same clean look that they had with the home uniform. Minnesota script in navy, red numbers, and vice versa on the back with the names and numbers. They also have the navy, white, and red piping on the sleeve and down the pants. Again, at first, wasn't really a big fan of this uniform. I'm not really sold on this uniform as a whole. It may have to take a little time to get used to it just from seeing it on the field a couple times. But it does work for the Minnesota Twins. The notable change that they have with the uniform is the new hat. So you see the new hat features an M with the North Star. That will be worn prominent with this road jersey. And last, going on to their alternate uniform. This alternate uniform can be worn at home and on the road. It is a prominent navy jersey, Minnesota script in white with red numbers, the traditional TC logo on the sleeve. It has the navy, white, and red piping both on the jersey sleeve and on the pants. Again, I love alternate uniforms. I love the Twins alternate uniforms that they had in the past. My favorite was the script Minnesota road alternate that they had. That was absolutely one of my favorite jerseys that they had. But now you're going to a more traditional, clean alternate uniform that will be worn at home on the road. And it also features the same hat that is paired with the road jersey. So overall, the Minnesota Twins have a fresh, clean look. You'll be seeing these uniforms debut spring training 2023 and for this season starting in 2023. What is noticeably not added onto the Twins uniforms is sponsors. We have seen sponsor patches being added to the San Diego Padres, and Boston Red Sox have been the two teams that have come out with jerseys with sponsor patches. The San Diego Padres will have a Motorola logo on their right sleeve, and the Boston Red Sox will have Mass Mutual on their jerseys as well. So as we talk about uniform overall, we're going to talk about one player who was with the Twins last year, opted out, and that's going to be Carlos Correa. So Carlos Correa, if you remember last year, signed a 3-year, $105 million deal with the Twins in 2022. It was a shock to the baseball world. We did not think that he was going to sign with the Twins. A lot of people, including myself, thought he would stay with the Astros. But he goes to Minnesota, has an okay year, not really a big seller year, does have the Twins off to a great start before they kind of fall off and give way to the Guardians for the AL Central. Season ends, he opts out of his contract. So he has opted out of his contract, and he is being pursued by the Yankees, the Giants, the Dodgers, Phillies, Braves. Any team that you can think of are pretty much going after Correa just because he is a good bat. He is a good defensive shortstop. However, he reportedly signs a 13-year, $350 million deal with the Giants. So it comes out saying that he's going to San Francisco. He's signing a 13-year deal with the Giants. Then news breaks that the deal has fallen through due to undisclosed medical conditions. We don't know at the time what the medical conditions were, but the Giants deal fell through. Then we also learned that the Twins did offer a 10-year, $258 million deal to keep him in Minnesota. His agent, Scott Boras, turned that deal down. They went with the more lucrative deal in San Francisco. And again, if you're chasing the money, you go with the money in San Francisco. But when that deal reportedly shut down, We then hear news that the New York Mets, who have already been spending big this offseason, signed him to a 12-year, $315 million deal. Now come to find out that he's having an ankle, leg issue, an injury has been kind of keeping this deal from going on. We see him in a cast over the holidays, and now the deal hangs in the balance, and there are reports coming out that the Mets are going to back out of this deal. They're going to pull this deal back from a leg ankle injury suffered back in 2014 while I was in the minors. And as of January 6th, the Mets are considering walking away from this deal. Now, if you're a Mets fan, I think you have mixed emotions going on. You want to have this bat on your team. The Mets have been spending big this offseason. They brought in a lot of good players over the offseason, and you add one more good player to that team. But now you're going to pull this back just because, and again, it is a leg issue. We don't know how serious this leg issue is. We don't know if this is going to be a lingering issue or if this is going to be a thing that once he does rehab, once he gets back onto the field, this issue is going to go away. Clearly, injuries never do go away. They're just going to linger on for a time. So we don't know what's going on with Carlos Correa, where it's going on right now. So right now, the deal with the Mets is the latest deal that we have. But again, we're not 100% sure on what's going on with Carlos Correa. Shoot us a comment here at the Bullpen Podcast. Leave a comment on our Twitter page. Where do you think Correa is going to go? Does he stay with the Mets? Does he go back out to San Francisco? Do the Yankees come into play? Or does he go back to Minnesota and hop on that 10-year deal that was originally reported? Now, going on to the free agent spending, we have seen a lot of free agent spending over this offseason. Deals have been flying in and out of the shelves. We see a ton of these multi-million, 10-year-plus deals going around. This goes back to when you had Manny Machado going out to San Diego, Bryce Harper going to Philadelphia. We're seeing a lot of these large contracts being signed, these 10, 11, 12, 13-year deals that are worth maybe $200 to $300 million. It's just crazy how big these deals are going on right now. But some of the big deals that we've seen over this past offseason have to be Aaron Judge. A lot of people didn't know, would Aaron Judge be staying in New York? There's a lot of talk saying that he was going to opt out of the New York deal and go somewhere else. But New York is able to keep him in the Bronx. They bring him back. He had a great year last year, AL MVP, well-deserved, 62 home runs, got the Yankees to a division title. Fortunately, couldn't get to the World Series. They kind of fell short again to the Astros when they got swept in the ALCS. But I think Aaron Judge staying in New York is a good deal for him. I think he'll have a better success rate in New York. That is a good hitter's park. So he's going to stay there. Rafael Devers going to Boston on an 11-year, $315 million deal. So the Red Sox are now being big spenders. They're hoping to have a bounce-back season from last year. Trey Turner's now in Philadelphia. Xander Bogaerts goes out to San Diego. Jacob deGrom, even though it's only a 5-year deal, it's worth $185 million. He's going to Texas. Dansby Swanson is going to the north side of Chicago. So these are just a lot of deals that are just going on right now. And then we've had a lot of players changing teams that have been unexpected. Jose Abreu. Everyone knows I'm a huge White Sox fan. I love Jose Abreu. He's been a staple on the South Side since 2014, Rookie of the Year, AL MVP in 2020, helped the White Sox clinch the AL Central in 21. Just a consistent hitter from year after year. Unfortunately, and this breaks my heart talking about it, he is going to be playing for the Houston Astros next year. He will be donning the orange and navy next year for the Houston Astros. And that's a huge addition for the Houston Astros. They have a great bat now coming to them in Houston, a stellar fielder at first base. He can DH from time to time, but they get a good, consistent bat at first base. Now, what does that mean for the White Sox? Well, the White Sox now will move Andrew Vaughn from the outfield to first base. They brought Andrew Vaughn up because they knew at some time he was going to be the replacement for Jose Abreu, and 2023 will be that time where he will be replacing Jose Abreu. They did get Andrew Benintendi. He'll go into the outfield. There are talks about moving Eloy to more of a DH role, possibly going out to right field. You got Gavin Sheets, who can come in and play outfield as well. maybe him and Andrew Vaughn switch out first base from time to time. Two of them can DH, so you have a lot of questions on the south side going through, especially with the loss of Jose Abreu. That is one loss that's definitely going to hurt because they are now losing a consistent bat with Jose Abreu now playing for the Houston Astros. And then you go into a lot of your big spenders over the offseason. The San Diego Padres, Chicago Cubs, New York Yankees, San Diego Padres have been your big spenders this offseason. They have gone out and paid the massive contracts for all these free agencies. I'll give you an example. Dansby Swanson did not think that he would go to the Chicago Cubs. I did not think the Cubs were going to be in the point to be big spenders over the offseason, but now they are spending a lot more money. They lost Wilson Contreras. He goes to St. Louis. But they bring in Dansby Swanson, who will be a good veteran player for this young Cub team. And the Cubs did play better than expectations last year. They had a much better season than last year. Hell, they almost had a better record than the White Sox, who were picked to win their division. But the White Sox were lucky to finish at a 500 record last year. So you have a lot of big spenders this offseason. You have a lot of player movement. And again, this is not going to be an in-depth podcast. This is kind of be a revamped podcast, kind of explain what's going to be expected over the next couple months with episodes. But we're going to have a lot more to talk about with free agents moving over the next couple of episodes. We're actually going to go division by division starting next week. We're going to break down each division, say who our big contenders are, who we think will win that division. And we're going to give you our predictions on who wins the division, who comes in second, who's the dark horse in that division, and if there's a division that could possibly be a runaway. But we're going to end the show with some news that broke this morning, actually. So Liam Hendriks, closer for the White Sox, in an Instagram post stated that he is going into treatment for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So he has been recently diagnosed with cancer. In a statement he posted on Instagram yesterday. And then the support from the baseball community has been overwhelming. Kind of like we saw with DeMar Hopkins, who had the cardiac arrest on the field in Week 17 against the Cincinnati Bengals, how everyone just rallied support around him. And thankfully, he has been released from the hospital, and teams have gone out and just done so much support for him, for his toy drive, for all of his charities. The baseball community has rallied around Liam Hendriks. If you go onto the White Sox Twitter page, they recently updated their Twitter bio page with a little green ribbon with a 31 in the middle, and teams have been sending their love out to him. The Orioles are saying send love from Baltimore. Even the Blue Jays are chiming in. All teams are showing support for Liam as he goes through this. And cancer touches a lot of people in different ways. My family has had experience with cancer. My sister is a cancer survivor. So we know that if you have someone you know who is diagnosed with cancer, this is going to affect not only their lives, but everyone that they love, their friends, their family. So Liam, from here at the Bullpen Podcast, we support you 100%. You got this. We wish you the best of luck in this, and we can't wait to see you back on the field, hopefully in 2023. So like I said, this was going to be a very short show today. We're just kind of getting back up. One thing I would like to do, you notice I am doing this show solo right now. My co-host at the time, Chris Krogman, stepped away from the show last year. He is now doing the Believe in Monsters podcast. Go give that show a follow. It's a great show. I would like to thank him again for the 2 years that he was co-hosting the show with me. But we are going to continue doing this show. There will be a couple of changes to the show. We're going to try some things out on this show over the next couple months, see what works, what doesn't work. Our show times are also going to shift from Wednesday over to Sunday. I know today is Monday. Unfortunately, we're not able to do the recording yesterday, but we will shift to more of a Sunday evening recording. So after all the afternoon slate of baseball games have gone, we will do our show kind of recapping the weekend. We'll still give you a preview of our top series, top stories, and going forth on the podcast. So thank you guys very much for tuning in on this very short podcast. Again, follow the show at the Bullpen Pod on Twitter. You can follow myself at Kunos19. And we look forward to seeing you again in the next show. Have a good night, everyone.